Joining me now is one of the most recent additions to the Democratic presidential field with arguably the most unique background in the 2020 field in that he was elected statewide in a place where President Trump won by 20 points. It's Montana's Democratic Governor Steve Bullock, who joins me now from the trail in Iowa. Governor Bullock, welcome to the race and welcome back to the show.
It's great to be with you today, Chuck, for sure.
Well, let me ask it this way. Why, you look at the field when you announced Joe Biden was already ahead. It looks like there is a portion of the electorate that says just find the most well-known Democrat that can win and just get on with it. You looked around. Why did you decide, you know what, this field needs me?
Why did I have to become the 22nd candidate? Well, first of all, you know, I didn't get in earlier because I still had a job to do. I signed my last bill just this past Monday, and I had to get Medicaid expansion reauthorized. We froze college tuition. We got a lot of good things done. But I got into this field because I think ultimately we're at a pretty dangerous point in our 243-year experiment called representative democracy. And I have some things to add to not only make sure that we can win this next election, beat Donald Trump, but bridge some of the divides to make sure the government gets working again for us.
Well, let's talk about the Trump voter in Montana. In 2016, you had a gun stance that I get why the Trump voter was comfortable voting for you and voting for Donald Trump. You've changed your gun stance a bit. You now believe in the national background checks that you weren't necessarily calling for in 16. Do you still think you're able to? I mean, one of the ways that folks like you can win in red states like Montana is you take the culture issues off the table. Right? As you know, if you can get culture off the table, you can have an economic conversation with the Trump voter. But I'm just curious, are you moving too far to the left on guns and some other issues, and coal, for instance, in order to still win the Trump voter?
Yeah, Chuck, even in that 2016 race, look, I've both signed gun-related bills and I vetoed a bunch of them. And my opponent tried to say, oh, he's going to take away all of our guns even then. That's fundamentally not true. Ultimately, I think we need to start looking at this as a public health issue, not just a political issue. When I was growing up as a kid, the NRA was a gun safety and a hunting organization. Now it's nothing more than a political organization. If we're looking at this as a public health issue, gun owners want to make sure that guns don't end up in unlawful hands or used wrong, so that even they support universal background checks. I think that there is a lot more that can be done along the way. And look, over a fourth of the time that I've been asked to lower flags, both under this administration and the previous, it had to do with mass shootings. People want change, and we can make change in a way that still bridges many of the divides.
Is there I want to go to abortion here a minute. As you know, it's obviously, I think, going to end up more front and center. The Supreme Court, given the age of some of the justices, is inevitably going to be a big part of this. Do you believe in a litmus test for judges? Do you have one in Montana when you appoint judges? And would you have one on Roe v. Wade? Tim Ryan came on the show yesterday, point blank said, yes, he's going to have a litmus test on Roe v. Wade if he's president.
You know, I have never once wavered in a woman's right to make her own health care decisions in Montana. I think that should be made by the woman in consultation with her doctor, and if she so chooses, her family and her faith. As a lawyer, I've appointed a lot of judges in Montana. Always wanted to make sure that that judge is consistent with the values that I hold. I do the same on the Supreme Court. We bandy about like litmus tests.
Right.
Fundamentally, I want a judge that's going to be consistent with my values on that, on campaign finance. In other ways, you know, by and large, we know that if you're asking a judicial candidate how you'd rule, they're not going to tell you.
Sure. That I get. Well,
but it would be important to me to be sure.
Let me ask you this. What limits would you put on abortion?
These are decisions that should not be made by legislators. I mean, 1973, Roe versus Wade is still the law of the land, and as opposed to attacking it, we should actually be promoting it.
No, I understand that, but there are limits on abortion in many states as it is. Do you believe it sounds like you believe if there are limits, it should be the medical community that defines the limits. But I guess, how do you get to there?
Well,
What does that look like?
yeah, and it should. And what it looks like in Montana is that we follow Roe versus Wade, and we've stopped every attempt to say, all right, sonograms. I mean, I think I vetoed 3 different bills this time. There's a lot of discussion going on about putting further restrictions, making it harder. We've said that that's not the decision for a legislative body to make. And even today, I mean, we've gone 45 years with Roe versus Wade. What Alabama did is an attack not only on Alabama, but our entire country. And we should be both codifying the opportunities under Roe versus Wade, and at state level, I haven't allowed any restrictions.
I know I'm running short on time, and you've got to get back on the trail, but you've been asked the Senate question a million times, and I get it. Most governors I've ever talked to or met, if they talk to a former governor who serves as a senator, they're like, you're miserable. So I get the personal issue there. But look, if you can't win this Democratic nomination, you care about Citizens United, you care about Roe v. Wade, you care about federal judges. Democrats are going to come to you and say, you know what, if you care about those issues, the United States Senate and a Democratic president and a Democratic Senate is how you deal with those issues. What would you say to a pitch like that?
Yeah, Chuck, and to have a Democratic Senate is so essential. And I have no doubt that we're going to have a number of good candidates in Montana. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that we take back that seat from Senator Daines in 2020. I have no doubt that we have good candidates, and we will, and we're going to do it. But for me, running for the Senate was never in the cards. This isn't an either-or thing. That decision was made long before I decided to get into this race.
All right, Governor Steve Bullock, I'm a little tight on time, but I look forward to talking to you more, talk foreign policy, some other things as we get to know you throughout the campaign trail. Stay safe on the trail, will you?
We'll sure do so. Thanks for having me on, Chuck.
Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Beat the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.